So up next, we have a special guest joining us. As a good friend to business in Montana, we are excited to welcome our representative, Troy Downing, to the stage.
Thanks, Nancy. Thanks to the Chamber and to the Governor for putting this on. And thank you all for participating in this. I think a lot of good stuff. I was looking at the theme, Big Sky, Bright Future, because I really think that there is a bright future. I think there's a lot of positive things moving right now in the administration, a lot of positive things moving in Congress. And I'd love to talk to you about some of that. First, I'm going to start with a couple of my opinions. One of the things that really drives prosperity to an individual, to a family, to a small business, to industry. Really two parts of that. One's access to capital, and another one is access to reliable and affordable energy. And I talk about the capital side of that first. I sit on the House Financial Services Committee, and we're doing a lot of work on streamlining the banking industry, making it easier to get money out there. A lot of good policy we're doing there so that community banks are underwriting the people that they know and the businesses they know and not collecting data that has nothing to do with that and really making that easier to get that capital. And so really excited about that. One of the subcommittees that I sit on financial services is the Digital Assets and Artificial Intelligence Subcommittee. A lot of really interesting information, a lot of interesting work happening there. We've passed our Genius Act, which is basically a framework for dollar-backed stablecoins. We also, in the House, we passed the Clarity Act, which gives clarity to digital assets. And it's something that we really need to deal with, something that I had to deal with when I was the regulator, the securities regulator, on the ambiguity that we had under the Gensler SEC on what cryptocurrencies were, whether they were securities or whether they should be treated as commodities. But the other thing in that, which I think is something that is probably one of the most interesting things to talk about, is artificial intelligence. And artificial intelligence is, for me, one of the most exciting opportunities in front of us, as well as one of the scariest things in front of us in understanding how to deal with that. And there's just so much opportunity. And I was talking to Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, and having a conversation. He says, well, we need to be careful that we're not putting too many sideboards so that we continue to innovate in the United States of America, because we're going to be blown out of the water by our competitors. And this is kind of a modern day arms race. I mean, it's very consequential if we don't continue to be competitive in this space. And he said, but we have to be ready to unplug it. I remember thinking, unplug it, what's that mean? I think that was the thesis behind the Matrix. The machine didn't want to be unplugged. But one of the other things, other than having a permissive regulatory environment, that you've got reasonable sideboards, but not so much that you're causing people to innovate elsewhere, is the ability to power it. I think we're already on our heels on this and being able to power it. And I think the biggest limiting factor we're going to have in that race in artificial intelligence is the ability to power it, not just to generate, to be able to transmit. Not every data center can be next to the source of generation. And we need to keep moving that forward by all means necessary, while making sure that we still have, for families, for individuals, for small businesses, for industry, reliable and affordable energy as these demands go up. And one of the big issues we need to start really looking at is maximizing our traditional energy sources and still looking at all of the above. What else can we do to improve? You hear that a lot, all of the above. We humans, we're a very innovative species. And left to our own devices, we can keep making things better, faster, more efficient, cleaner, and we're going to continue doing that across the board. But one of the things I think is really important is that we don't ignore the energy that's right underneath our feet right now. And obviously, in terms of baseload power and being able to power that, that's some of the most important stuff that we continue to advocate for, and to make sure that we are utilizing those utilities, the utility of that we have right now. And I can just say some of the work that we've done this Congress and with this presidency, with this administration, I think that I'm very excited about it, because we are unleashing a lot of opportunity that the previous administration tried to somewhat slow down. And I think that, President Trump's policy and what we're trying to do in Congress really is about unleashing American energy and making sure that we are, net exporters. We're doing everything that we need to be competitive to, continue building that American dream here, and to make sure that all of the implications, not just in developing, new technologies, but, promoting the American dream and making sure we're dealing with national security are all incredibly important. So I'm going to talk about some of the stuff that we've been doing in Congress really briefly. First of all, one of the bills that I introduced, and in a lot of these, when I say I introduced, most of these we have the entire Montana delegation behind these, so we tend to co-sponsor each other's bills when it's meaningful in all of our districts, so when it's meaningful statewide. And I'm really honored that we have that, because the Montana delegation, even though there's only 4 of us, I think we're hitting above our weight class because we're all rowing in the same direction and all complementary. Really excited about that. So the first one that just made it through, House Joint Resolution 104. This is one, we're in day 16 of the shutdown, but we're actually still getting things done. This one, it got through the House about a month ago, and then about a week ago got through the Senate. And what House Joint Resolution 104 did is it overturned restrictions that prohibit future coal leasing throughout the entire Powder River Basin in Montana. So this was an RMP that came under the Biden administration to lock up that coal mining in there. It constitutes about 30% of the coal reserves for the country, so it's obviously meaningful. About 2.75 million acres of land, about 12 million acres of mineral estate in Montana. And this is ensuring access to about 38 billion short tons of coal. So this is enough to supply to meet the U.S. coal demand for the next 73 years. So it's obviously meaningful. And when a lot of these things, when I talk about it being meaningful, it's obviously meaningful to my district, it's meaningful to my state, and it's also meaningful to my country as we start to really, promote these policies to make America energy dominant. So really excited we got that one through, and that one passed through the Senate, so it's going to the president's desk. We expect that to be signed into law fairly quickly. Another one that's on my list is the Crow Tribe Water Rights Settlement Amendment Act, and this basically allows, it's a water settlement act that extends the authorization for the tribe to develop hydropower on the Yellowtail Afterbay Dam. So that's a good one we're excited about. The Crow Revenue Act. This one, there's a bunch of pieces to this, and I'm sure a lot of the people in the room know about this, but there was a restriction on mining federal coal in Muscle County at the Bull Mountains mine. And the issues that we had there under the Biden administration, they rescinded a permit to mine under this federal land, these federal mineral rights. And that would have given them about to the end of this year until they ran up against that border. And for those of you who don't know, this is a longwall mine, and the logistics in stopping that mining and redirecting a longwall mine would have effectively sterilized the rest of that coal, because it would have become economically unfeasible to continue doing that. So happy that we got that temporary relieved on that permitting, but then I've also got the Crow Revenue Act that will get rid of that problem for future administrations. But what that will do is it'll take the federal sections and swap them out for private trust sections, so that it's no longer a federal land issue. So if you have a future administration that wants to again prohibit that, they'll be unable. So that's another one we have in the hopper. Try to see if there's any. Oh, one other one. This is not directly energy, but one of the things in my district, I'm sure a lot of you heard about the layoffs that they had at the Siboney-Stillwater mine outside of Columbus, down in Nye. The reason that they laid off those 700 high-paid workers down there, the folks working in those mines, was entirely economic. Basically, there was Russian dumping of critical minerals, namely platinum and palladium, into the commodities markets. And that caused artificially low commodity prices, and it made the commodity price below the cost of extraction, so it made it economically unfeasible to keep it open. So I have a bill out there, the Stop Russian Market Manipulation Act, that will basically prohibit the Russians from dumping commodity metals onto the markets below the extraction value. And they have about 30% of that market, so that is a market mover there. So that's another one to try to deal with that issue. Some of the other stuff that we've done in terms of Congress, I voted for and supported the Protecting American Energy Production Act, which ensures that states can maintain control over fracking regulations. So obviously that's meaningful for a lot of folks. And also, I don't want to discount what we did with the reconciliation bill, the One Big Beautiful Bill. A lot of good stuff went in there for our energy folks, to our natural resource folks, to our farmers and ranchers. And just a couple of highlights: the royalty rate for new federal onshore production will return to a minimum 12.5%. That was reversing a much higher rate that was established under the Inflation Reduction Act. There's just so many good things in there. Also on coal, it reduced the royalty rate from 12.5% down to 7%, so that obviously significantly decreases the per ton cost of producing coal and improves financial viability for producers. Federal leasing will be restored. Moving on to water infrastructure and hydropower, the Bureau of Reclamation will adopt an accelerated permitting process for major water infrastructure projects, and just really happy with a lot of the stuff that went into here. Now, one other thing that I just want to talk about, a lot of this has been executive orders that are, fungible with a future administration. So we've been trying to codify these to give stability and predictability to the market. So one of the things, I'm going to tell a little story about this. Please forgive me, because I know a couple of you in the audience have heard this story already. But earlier this year, I was at the Signal Peak mine in Muscle County, and 800 feet underground, I grab a chunk of coal. And I ask if I can take it home. They say, yeah, we measure by the ton, take as much as you can carry. And so I take that up to the surface, and we shellac it so it doesn't come apart, and I stick it in my suitcase to fly it to DC. And I'm really wondering what TSA is going to think about it, but they didn't say anything, just normal thing, non-Christmas, but still bringing coal to DC. And so I stick it on my desk as a conversation piece, and about a week or two later, I get an invitation from the president, because he is signing an executive order, and invited me to come, for this signing. And basically, this executive order had a bunch of provisions. It first of all, it stated that coal is essential to U.S. national economic security, that federal support for coal production and coal-fired electricity is a national priority. Coal was designated as a mineral under a prior executive order, gaining related benefits. It was the end of prior coal leasing moratorium. It was prioritizing coal leasing on public lands. There was, so many parts of this that was obviously, pro-coal. And so now I'm thinking, I got to take this chunk of coal to the White House. So I'm wondering what Secret Service is going to think. So put it in a little bag, and I go to the White House, and the Secret Service was confused but didn't seem to care. And I'm sitting in the audience, and President Trump is doing what President Trump does. He's starting to, tell his stories, and he starts out saying, "Don't ever say coal. It's not coal. It's beautiful, clean coal. You don't ever say coal without saying beautiful, clean before it." And so he's telling his story, and when he's done telling his story, he starts introducing some folks in the room, and he gets to Montana. He says, Here's Congressman Downing from Montana. And I stand up, and he says, "Well, is that coal?" I go, "No, Mr. President, it's beautiful, clean coal." But one of the things I just want to say is this administration, I think, is going to be one of the strongest advocates we have for doing what we know how to do, producing energy, making sure that we're making it easy in our natural resource industries. I think that on the House side, you had Chairman Westerman speaking earlier today. I think he's just been a fantastic advocate. And one thing that I've been really happy with is he allows me to wave onto that committee. I asked for that committee when I was doing my committee assignments, but it was full, so they didn't give it to me, but they let me wave on as much as I want in dealing with natural resource issues, dealing with issues in Indian country, dealing with Endangered Species Act issues. So I've kind of become their mascot there on natural resources. So I expect to be on that next cycle, but great work that they've been doing there in making sure that we are watching out for our natural resource and energy sectors, as well as all the other great things that we do on that. I just want to say also, I know that you're going to hear something from Secretary Wright, Chris Wright, who is a personal friend. I've known the Secretary for probably close to 30 years, one of the smartest guys I know on energy. I was really excited when he was nominated and excited when he was confirmed, because I think that his leadership is going to be great in driving our energy policy forward. Also, Secretary Burgum, I think, was a great nominee and is going to be a great secretary as he moves forward running the Department of Interior. And that combined with what we're trying to do in Congress and what the president is trying to do in the White House, I go back to the theme of this is big skies, bright future, because I think that our future is bright. I think that there's a lot of folks that understand how important it is to make it easy for industry to succeed, make it easy to power your life, your family, your business, your industry. And I think that you're going to see that support continuing. So in my final thoughts here, I just want to say I'm honored to be here. And I'm glad that there was such a good showing here. Thanks to the chamber, thanks to the governor, thanks for everybody that put this on, because these are important topics. And I know that there's been some struggles leading up to this time, but there's a new sheriff in town. I think that we're all going to be happy with the results as we start to build a foundation that we can count on as we plan into the future and make sure that we can power not just our industry, not just our houses, not just our families, but also this next technology that I think is going to be of increasing importance as we compete in the global scale there. So thank you all for your time. Really appreciate it. If there's anything that my office can ever help you with, just look for us, easy, downing.house.gov. Phone numbers are at the bottom. Love to hear from you on how we can be more helpful. So on that, I very much appreciate the time, and I will yield back.
Thank you, Congressman Downing. I think we can all see that in his one short year in office, he's done already a lot for our state and our nation, so we're very appreciative for that. Thank you so much. And for ease of recall for all of you, videos of every session today will be available on the Montana Chamber website for you to look up. Give us a couple weeks to get them on there, but then they will be there for all of you to use. And please don't hesitate to reach out with any issue you're having in business to either the Montana Chamber or the governor's office. We definitely want to help. So who better to present a national perspective on unleashing Americans' energy than U.S. Secretary of Energy Chris Wright? Secretary Wright currently serves as the 17th Secretary for the U.S. Department of Energy. A self-described energy nerd turned entrepreneur, Chris is a dedicated humanitarian with a passion for bringing the benefits of energy to every community in the world. This passion has inspired a career in energy, working in oil and gas, nuclear, solar, and geothermal. As Secretary of Energy, Chris is focused on unleashing American energy dominance, accelerating innovation, and advancing all energy sources. Unfortunately, due to the government shutdown, Secretary Wright had to cancel his trip to be with us in person today. However, he did take the time to provide remarks, and if we will watch a short video that he provided.
Hello, everyone. First, I want to address the elephant in the room. Why the hell am I in a suit and a flat face up on a screen? I wanted to be in the great state of Montana and with my great friend, Governor Greg Gianforte. Unfortunately, political situation in D.C. has changed, and I was not able to make it out there. That is a crushing disappointment for me. Sorry to not be in Montana with you. I want to thank the Montana Chamber of Commerce for hosting this important event and for inviting me to be there. I want to discuss Montana's incredible role in powering America's energy future. Montana knows energy, from coal to gas to hydropower. This state has long helped fuel our nation's growth. Those are 3 of the 4 backbones of our electricity grid. The only one missing there is nuclear. But those 4 sources have been the backbone of the United States electricity grid from the start. First, it was coal and hydro. We added natural gas and we added nuclear in the post-World War II era. Those are what keep the lights on 24/7 when it's cold in the winter and the wind is still. That's where all of our electricity comes from. And from the start, the Trump administration made it clear that the era of energy subtraction, we got to suppress and get rid of this piece of energy, that era is over. We are not out to subtract energy sources, drive up costs, and burden families. We want to bring back common sense and unleash American energy across the board, producing record levels of oil, natural gas. We want to revitalize the coal and nuclear industries and advancing next generation technologies that secure our energy independence. Coal has been the biggest source of global electricity from the start. 125 years of data, coal is number 1, 125 out of 125 years globally. And it will be for decades more to come. So we got to put all of our decisions in context. Historic permitting reform this administration set out to achieve, to cut red tape, bring back common sense, and reduce the burden of federal decision making. Let states and businesses and entrepreneurs and consumers make their own decisions. We want the United States building again, building big things, building power plants, building pipelines, building transmission lines, building data centers. These are the foundations for our lasting prosperity. Energy is also the backbone of our national security. Affordable, reliable, and secure energy underpins every aspect of our economy and every aspect of our defense. Around the world, we've seen what happens when countries depend on unreliable energy sources or a single source, a foreign supplier that may be a hostile supplier. What this leads to is factories shut down, costs soar, and national sovereignty erodes. If you're dependent on the weather or dependent upon a foe for your energy system, you're going to export your industry abroad, as unfortunately so many European nations did. That's why the Department of Energy is focused on supporting all forms of reliable energy: coal, natural gas, nuclear, hydropower, and geothermal. Each plays a critical role in securing our grid and strengthening our economy. Today, America stands on the threshold of a new industrial era. We've outsourced so much industry overseas, we want to stop that. We want to, number one, we have a new industry, artificial intelligence. This is an energy-intensive industry. We want to keep it right here in the United States and keep the U.S. in the lead. Artificial intelligence is transforming science, manufacturing, and national security. It will require more power than any technology in history. AI is the next Manhattan Project, which requires an all-hands-on-deck national effort that will define our competitiveness for decades to come. I mentioned the Manhattan Project because that was a project during World War II where we were developing an atomic bomb at the same time Nazi Germany was developing an atomic bomb. Getting second was not an option. The same is true here. Artificial intelligence will affect our national security, and China is all in on developing artificial intelligence. They're a powerful industrial nation with great intellectual assets. China's going to move rapidly in artificial intelligence. We need to move more rapidly. We need to keep the United States in the lead. And to do that, it requires rapid growth in our electricity production in the United States. Recently, the DOE did a resource adequacy report to study our electric grid, and it shows that demand from data centers and reshoring manufacturing are growing much faster than our generation was being built. The answer to this is not to ration electricity, but to produce more of it. That's bringing back the common sense. That's why DOE launched the Speed to Power initiative to accelerate permitting, strengthen transmission, and expand baseload generation to assure the United States has the energy capacity needed to lead in the AI race. Natural gas remains the backbone of America's electricity system, supplying roughly 40% of our electricity and driving U.S. manufacturing. It's affordable, reliable, and it's secure. The United States is also the world's #1 exporter of natural gas, via pipeline to Mexico and Canada, and via LNG to the rest of the world. When we came to power in January, there was a pause on approval of LNG exports terminals. A total shame. Natural gas is the fastest growing energy source on the planet. Our allies around the world are growing their demand for LNG, and we said, no, never mind, we're not going to permit any more export terminals. Total nonsense. We have reversed that policy, and we've approved more than 13 billion cubic feet per day of additional export capacity in our first 9 months of this administration. That's about as much export capacity as we had in its entirety when we arrived. That's what American energy dominance looks like. American resources fueling prosperity at home and stability and prosperity abroad. We are also entering a new chapter in nuclear energy. Nuclear energy came out of the gate strong in the 50s through the 70s, and then it stifled and stopped and stagnated for decades. President Trump's executive orders are modernizing reactor licensing, rebuilding the nuclear fuel supply chain, and targeting 300 gigawatts of new nuclear capacity by 2050. Yes, that's big and bold. That's quadrupling what we have today. But that's what President Trump's about. Big, bold initiatives and making sure they happen. Sounds a little bit like Governor Gianforte. But working with the industry and our national laboratories, DOE is supporting advanced reactors, restarting dormant large reactor facilities, and integrating nuclear power into AI and our national security infrastructure. This is a once-in-a-generation effort to restore American leadership in nuclear energy. The Department of Energy is committed to working hand in hand with states, communities, and private partners across the country to strengthen the reliability, expand the infrastructure, and grow our supply of energy so we can drive down costs for American consumers and deliver economic opportunity for our businesses across the country. That cooperation between federal, state, and local leaders is how we deliver lasting results. Together, we are ensuring that every region of America has access to the affordable, reliable power needed to drive economic growth. This is a defining moment for our country. Energy demand is rising faster than ever, driven by AI, reshoring of manufacturing, and reindustrializing our country. An awesome opportunity. We're ready for this opportunity. We have the resources, we have the talent, and under President Trump's leadership, we have the will to get it done. The Trump administration's approach is simple: energy addition, not subtraction, and unleash the full strength of American energy to fuel the next century of growth. To everyone in Bozeman today, I'm disappointed I'm not there with you, but I thank you for your leadership and your partnership. The future of American energy is being built right here in the heart of the Mountain West. It's strong, it's reliable, and it's proudly American. Thank you, Governor Gianforte. Thank you, everyone at the conference. Thank you, the Chamber of Commerce. I'm disappointed to not be with you today. Have a great conference.
We can thank Todd for all the music today. What a day. Wasn't this great? I have the great pleasure of wrapping it up. I'll do that quickly. But I don't know about you, but after today, I'm feeling, one might say, energized about Montana's future. I'll keep this really brief. I just want to express my appreciation to all of you for being here, for Secretary Wright, even though he couldn't be here in person. He's a dear, dear friend. Susan and I and Chris and his wife Liz have hung from ropes off the side of mountains together. The fellow governors that joined us, Chairman Bruce Westerman, who's doing a great job leading natural resources and getting the red tape out of the way so we can responsibly develop our natural resources. Congressman Troy Downing, all of our panelists and speakers, all of our sponsors, again, Todd O'Hara and the entire chamber, Rachel Green and the staff in the governor's office for the work they did to put this together, and all of you as attendees. You've been attentive and engaged, and I saw the networking going on out in the hallway. I hope we get, when you get, pen to paper and you do the deals that come from a result of the conversations, please let us know. We'll come help you celebrate those. So together, I am confident we will continue to make progress in delivering affordable, reliable power through an all-of-the-above energy strategy, both now and well into the future, for all of our benefits. Thank you so much for being here today.